Well, ladies, I think it is time.
Time for what?
Time for enlightenment.
Oh. Mr. Reed?
Heretic is a film that is directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods. You know these guys from 65, a very horrible film that we reviewed a year and a half ago.
Send help.
They wrote and directed The Boogeyman. That film was very bad too.
That was okay. That was okay.
You're right. It's better than 65. And they also co-wrote A Quiet Place.
Right.
And this film is a horror film, okay? And it stars Hugh Grant, Sophie Thatcher with a TH, and also Chloe East. And this follows two girls, Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton, and they are missionaries.
Right. They're Mormon missionaries, to be more specific.
Mormon missionaries.
Yeah.
Yes.
And actually, I really like how the movie starts. It starts with them mid-conversation, and they're talking about dicks, and you're like, what? That's just how the movie starts. And they're debating.
Not only are they talking about dicks, they're talking about dicks while they sit on a billboard bench that has a freaking condom on it.
Right.
Crazy.
And they're debating whether or not Magnum condoms are actually bigger than regular condoms or not, because Sister Paxton believes the advertisement that it's bigger. Sister Barnes was telling her, okay, I know it's what you heard, but the truth is they're all the same size and it's just marketing. And I was like, why are we starting here? I was like, what is this? Yeah. But actually that ends up being like the crux of the whole movie. Where do you get the knowledge that you have in your head? Where does that come from? Why do you believe that? Is this actual knowledge or is this marketing? And believe it or not, that is a huge part of this film. And actually it's probably my favorite part of the film.
Yes, I think that's one of my favorite parts of this film too, because where's the truth start from, and is the truth manipulated over time?
It gets very philosophical, which is one of the reasons why a huge portion of this film I genuinely loved. I thought this movie had some great conversations about knowledge, about intelligence, about religion, about following versus leading. I thought all this stuff was really good about consumerism, but then there's a point in the film, and by the way, this whole review is going to be all spoilers. So if you haven't seen this film, it might be better to go watch it and then come back and watch this film.
Go watch it and come on back.
Exactly. But there's a point in this film where the film makes a sharp turn, and all those debates, the debate that literally starts this film, goes out the window. No one cares anymore, and it becomes more like a monster man chasing a little girl down a hallway. So the movie. It starts off with these great big ideas, these great big thoughts, but they didn't really lead anywhere.
The villain in this film is Mr. Reed.
Mr. Reed? Mr. Reed.
Mr. Reed.
He's played by Hugh Grant, and you guys know Hugh Grant. He's the charming Englishman. And, when these girls show up to this house, it's like a whole clear telltale sign they really shouldn't even be at this house. It's wet, it's raining out there, there's a storm that's about to come, and it's all the signs that God is telling you to get away from this place and go on somewhere else. They still walk in and they see this charming guy that's waiting for his wife to finish a blueberry pie, and they're here to tell him about the gospel.
Right.
And he's like, yes, I'm here to hear about it. Let's talk about it. And brings them inside.
Let's talk about why they went inside, right? It's like you said, why would you go to this house? These two girls, they are young women. They look like maybe in their 20s or something like that. They're roaming around on bikes, and it's pouring down rain, okay? Like you said, they've got all the reason to just go home, okay? But the reason why they don't, we learn through that, dick conversation, that Sister Barnes is very good at her job. She has rescued many a soul by doing this. Okay, she's very good. But Sister Paxton has not, and it's even more frustrating for her because she's a true believer. She believes deep down to her core that this is true, this is real, and she really is helping these people. She really is saving these people. Where Sister Barnes. She's showing some doubt here. It's not necessarily that she doesn't believe in it, but while Sister Paxton grew up in the church, Sister Barnes did not. I think you're about to say mention that she grew up in Philadelphia, in the inner city. She has a very different background than Sister Paxton, and this has helped with her selling, but not so much with her believing. And so Sister Paxton is like, look, I know you saved a bunch of souls, but I have saved no one. Gosh darn it. Okay. So we got to get to this one house. We got to get them all. I can't go back empty-handed. I can't go back empty-handed.
Like Ash.
And thank God they found this nice, friendly looking man who smells like blueberry pie, who's inviting him in. Him and his wife are about to sit down and tuck into some pie. That sounds nice and cozy. We also learned that Mr. Reed asked for people to come. This actually wasn't a random door knock. He requested someone to come to the house.
That's important. That is important. So they sit down and they're talking about the religion. They're going into different aspects of it. A little down the line, he started getting a little bit more aggressive in his tone about the things that he's talking about. By the way, the kitchen is super far away, apparently. He goes into this dark room in the back. They don't know where he's going. She turns the candle that he blew out, turns the candle around and says blueberry pie. And that was a first signal to Sister Barnes that something is going on here.
There is a little bit of a cop out here, because we learn later on there actually is a blueberry pie on the vicinity. So maybe they smelled a blueberry pie, but I just did not buy that these two girls were tricked by a candle. Okay, candle wax and blueberries smell different. I don't care how you spray them, okay? But fine, whatever. We also learned that Mr. Reed is very smart, like really smart. As a matter of fact, while they're talking, he makes a point to one-up them over and over and over again. They learn that Mr. Reed knows way too much about the Mormon religion to have people come out the street and try to convince him of the religion, because he seems not only to know it, but he seems to know all the contradicting points to it. We also learn that the house is just set on timers. The whole house is set on timers. The door is set on a timer. The lights are set on timers. Everything is set on timers. And when he walks down that dark, long hallway, essentially leaving Sister Paxton and Sister Barnes just sitting there by the door, free to go out, I thought, run, go, run. And thankfully, they try. And this is the best part of the film. I think the film tries to knock at all the logistical doors it can, right? It's like, if you were in this situation, what would you do? Would you try the window? Window's too small. Would you try the door? Door's locked. Would you try this? That doesn't work. So the movie very slowly, kind of like Barbarian, walks you down their path, which unfortunately their path only leads deeper into this house.
It leads deeper into this house, deeper into these questions and tests, because this is a test. As we said earlier, that he asked for, these people to come here and talk to them about the religion. And we learn a little bit later, this is not his first time doing this. I didn't even know about Monopoly. I didn't know that, before 1935, there was an original different version of Monopoly in 1904.
Mr. Reed uses Monopoly as a metaphor for religion. And he's like, oh, okay, so where does Mormonism come from? Christianity? Okay, so where does Christianity come from? Okay, it comes from here, right? Okay, so where does that come from? He always wants to ask more and more and go back and back, and he's trying to find the original, the one true religion. This is his goal. And I thought that was really interesting. He's got a little room in his house that looks like a chapel with pews and books and all the whole thing.
He has two doors. And he basically tells the girls that you are not prisoners here, but you have to get out. You have to go in and you got to go down. He's like, did you just see my house all the way around? You would notice if you paid attention that my house is on a cliff and it goes down, and these two doors, one he marked on there that says belief, another one that he marked that says disbelief. And then you pick the door based on what path you gonna follow.
Sister Barnes is a little more street smart. She's like, oh, this guy does not have good intentions with us. She's ready to fight. You know what I mean? where the true believer, Miss Paxton, is like, no. I can reason with this man. Let me be nice. Let me be reasonable. I don't necessarily have to agree. Yeah. I'll just go by his rules, do whatever he wants. But Sister Paxton knows that this is death. And he's like, well, if you'd paid attention to our conversation earlier, you'd have heard all kind of hints and clues about the house. Do you believe my hints and clues? Do you believe there's a pie in the house? Do you believe that my wife is actually here? Do you believe me when I say that my house is on a cliff and all you have to do is walk through this door and outside you go? But you got to go down to get out. Do you believe that? Why? Who told you that? Was it the man that was threatening you with your life and you still believe it? You know, and this is where I think the movie shines. This is where it's my favorite part of the film. This is, I think, the meat and potatoes of the film. This is the part of the film everyone's going to talk about. And it's this debate in the chapel, which I thought was fantastic. I thought it was written really well. And I thought Hugh Grant killed it. Okay. Killed it. There is a real risk that this long monologue, I'm talking endless monologue, could be boring. But Hugh Grant, with all his charisma, keeps it really interesting and really entertaining and really makes you think. And I could even feel myself questioning my own previous thoughts, my own feelings about religion. And I think that's really, really powerful. But it also, of course, runs the risk of completely offending everyone.
That's what I was about to say.
Because
it definitely could run the risk of that.
Yeah, because he shits on every religion. Literally, no one is safe, okay? And I found this to be really interesting. And it made me think, damn, wow, this movie is just like a big puzzle. Like, wow, where are we going to go next? And unfortunately, the movie goes nowhere next. And for all intents and purposes, when they leave the chapel, the movie ends. And it turns into a different movie.
It turns into like your structured horror film.
Yeah,
it's what it is. They go down into this dark place where they don't know where it's gonna go.
He says you're gonna go down to this place, and I'm gonna show you a miracle. And they're like, "What the hell is a miracle?" Only for there to be a woman suddenly in this room, a room that they'd examined, and there was no way in. So how is there a woman in the room now? And she's holding a freaking blueberry pie. She's like, what?
Yeah, and what he calls her, he says, this is a prophet, and you're going to see a miracle. And the miracle is, you know, the blueberry pie is laced with something that's going to kill her. And then she's going to wake back up and tell you what's on the other side of death. And she eats the pie, and she dies. And then they try to escape after this, but then they come back and the body's moved a little bit different, you know?
Once the girls catch him in a lie or in a trick, right? Once they figure out that, oh, there's a trap door down here, and that's how that lady with the pie showed up and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Suddenly he backs up and he's like, well, actually, some people are real and some people aren't. Some people are just NPCs controlled by microchips. And so things just completely fall off the rails, you know? So it's unclear whether or not Mr. Reed actually believes anything. Like at first I thought he might've been some sort of a devil worshiper, but I think what he really believes, and what he believes the one true religion is power. He thinks religion is power, religion is control. And he is showing that the only reason those girls came to his house was because of their faith. And the only reason they went through that door was because of their faith. And the only reason they stuck around after they saw this miracle, which is really just a suicide that happened right in their face, is because of their faith. And then we learn later on that there are more prophets that he keeps in cages, who essentially
all the people who came there to speak the gospel to him.
Right, who have essentially turned into like blubbering idiots, I guess, and because he's just been torturing them for so long that they'll just do whatever he says. And I think his point is that religion has no point. Religion has no origin. It doesn't come from anywhere. Its only reason for existing is to control the masses, is to make you do what the people in power want you to do. Mr. Reed does something really interesting, but it ends the film. He cuts our main character's throat mid-sentence, and she's like, and I'm like, whoa, did that really happen? And he's like, it's okay. she'll come right back. And at that moment, everything changed. At that moment, we realized that Mr. Reed is really just a bloodthirsty psycho. And the rest of the film is just a pretty blonde running from a man with a knife. And that sucks, man. That sucks. But hey, at least we got that great debate.
That was definitely a turning point, because after that, when she's going down these halls and you see all these bones and crosses and stuff like that, you would think that, okay, so this is the part where they're going to talk about the Satanism stuff going on, you know, but they don't really speak about that. They go straight into the whole thing of where she sees the women in cages. She's thinking about, okay, so this whole thing is really control.
And it's such a shame, because when she goes into that room and we see all this kind of Satanism stuff on the wall, I legit expected, I knew the movie was going to stop and talk about this, right? But it literally doesn't. The movie just goes, because the movie loses interest in its own premise. Right after the debate's over, right after he gives that great speech, the movie loses interest in itself.
The debate about the religion and all that goes within that, what's real, what's not real, what is your belief system and stuff like that, is the crux of the movie. But then when it turned into an actual horror film, to where he is just a crazy man, you know,
literally after that character gets killed, we learn that he snuck out of the house and was moving bikes outside of the house at one point
in a storm.
In a storm. And then she's like, I noticed you had a little bit of moisture on your brow. I'm like, yo, this dude should have been wet as hell if he was doing all that. They should have said that one of the prophets moved the bikes instead of saying he moved the bike. I would have believed that. The candle, the bike situation, the suspension of disbelief for me was a little bit too much. But again, because that debate was so good, I'm almost willing to accept it.
Yeah. If the prophets moved the bike, they would have just escaped.
No, they wouldn't. They would have come back too, because of the power that he has over them with the religion. They would have come right back and sat in the cage. You could tell that our writers and our directors really wanted to have that conversation in the chapel. They really wanted to have it. That was the gold star, the centerpiece of the film. And the lead up to that is very exciting. It's very exciting. And the actual debate is fantastic. Even the language of the film changes a little bit, where the film starts to, there's a miniature of the house inside the house. And the film starts to focus more on the miniature in the house and where Miss Paxton or Sister Paxton is in the house. So even like the film language, I feel like shifts a bit. For me, while I thought the film was still very well made, it just was not as interesting. It turned into a film I've seen 100 million times.
Right. The only thing that the third act did in the conclusion of the film was connect to something that Sister Paxton said at the beginning when they were in the house, saying, when I pass away, I want to be a butterfly and land on the finger of my loved ones and stuff.
Right,
and
so they'll know it's me.
Yeah. Right. And then that was like the last frame that you see a butterfly landed on her finger, which she was able to escape after the fight.
Well, actually, that was the second to last image. The last frame was there was no butterfly.
All right. Yeah. Yeah.
So she sees a butterfly and she's like, oh my God, is this Sister Barnes? And she looks again and it's not there. And what do you think that means? A
question of her belief system is like, did you really see your butterfly there? Or was it something that you was imagining that?
And moreover, does it matter? Right? Does it matter whether or not there was a butterfly there? Does it matter whether it was real or not? What really matters is her faith. What do you believe happened? And it leaves it ambiguous as to whether or not she believes there was a butterfly on her finger. And I feel like it's important that Sister Paxton is the one that they leave things ambiguous with. Because before, when the movie started, she would have seen that damn butterfly. And she would have screamed it from the mountaintops. There's a butterfly on my finger. Right after my friend died, that was her. She was trying to send me a signal. But this time, she sees the butterfly and then it goes away. So I feel like they're trying to say, even though this man is a monster, it worked just a little bit. Just for a second.
It got into her brain.
Yeah, it dug into her brain just a little bit and gave her the first hints of doubt. But again, just like you said, maybe that's not how it ended. Maybe you could think of it another way. Maybe you could say that she sees it and she doesn't care if anyone sees it. And that's that. She saw the butterfly. She believes it. She knows it's real. That was a sign from God that she's on the right path. So you could read the ending to this film almost any kind of way, just like you can read your personal religion any kind of way. And I thought that was interesting too.
You know, and I appreciate this film for grasping, you know, our attention on a very serious subject and keeping it like on the edge of your seat, like you don't know what's going to happen next.
And I like that ultimately I think this movie was about a lonely man who went down a noble path, but he went way too far and lost his way. And now he thinks he has found some sort of truth, he thinks the universe has unveiled some sort of truth about the world. He's lifted the veil of the universe, and he's so anxious to spread the good word, right? Which is essentially what he's doing. And it was not afraid to go into some sticky territory. And I think more or less it navigated it pretty well. Again, I just wish either the third act didn't exist or they could have worked this out somehow better, worked this better into the film, because I just did not like how literally we have Hugh Grant giving a sermon in a church, which is fascinating, to Hugh Grant, you know, chasing girls around in his apartment, you know, with a knife. I just feel like the movie like devolved into something so basic.
Sometimes you have a little nugget of a gem, you know, but stick the landing better, I would say.
Yeah, this film did not stick the landing at all. But again, minus the ending, this was a very well made film. I thought it was directed pretty well. I thought it was acted really, really, really well. I thought Sister Paxton and Sister Barnes really held this film up, because more or less this film is a film with 3 actors in it. Okay, that's the overwhelming bulk of the film. Topher Grace shows up for, you know, a cameo every once in a while. I think a neighbor pops her head in or something like that. But it is really just these 3 people. And at no point was I bored in the film. And I think that is not bored. That is a winning formula for both these directors and these actors.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's a winning formula for them. But that's what we felt about this film. More importantly, how do you feel about this film?
Yeah, and did I miss something? Like, what was up with that third act? Let me know down below.
Do you believe that butterfly was there or not? Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Thank you to the people who got us over 1,000 subscribers. We really do appreciate you guys. Continue to run those numbers up. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to seeing our faces, okay? Get us more. Our next goal is 5,000. We'll get there. And if you did like the review of this film, please hit that thumbs up. Or you can hit that thumbs down, whichever you choose. It is your opinion, but just remember one thing. It is mostly wrong. Never step into someone's house that you do not know. I don't care what religion you is. Don't go in there. No.